Hello and welcome back to another Star Wars Black Series review. Today I'm taking a look at the Moff Gideon figure, which has just come out in the UK. This one came from Smith's. I think a lot of the specialty shops got them first with their pre-orders, so I cancelled my pre-order elsewhere, which wasn't due until like June, and managed to get him a little bit early, which was great. So first things first, I think he looks fantastic. Out of the box, he looks amazing. I think they've done a really good job here. But before we get into that, let's begin by taking a look at the packaging. So the figure comes packaged in the window box with the artwork on the diagonal panel on the side. You've got the Star Wars logo in gloss against the matte black of everything else. This is of course the Mandalorian range, so it's got the sort of orange brown colour scheme. The artwork on the side looks great. Of course, if you collect the other figures in this range, you put them all together to build up the tapestry, which is great if you're someone like me, doesn't like to keep the figures in the box, but doesn't like to throw the boxes away, because this just gives you another reason to try and keep hold of it. And, you can then display the size of the boxes, which is a really nice idea. And then on the back, you've got all your legal gubbins and spiel, but you've got another look at that artwork and then a description about the character as well. Only very brief, the rest of it is all in different languages. So like I said, once the figure is out of the box, he looks amazing. It's an absolutely fantastic likeness of actor Giancarlo Esposito. I think they've done a phenomenal job. I've seen a few people say that they don't think it looks that great, and I don't know if that's just sort of hit and miss with the paint apps, dodgy moustaches or eyebrows not painted on quite right. I was very lucky. I got a really great one. It does give him a bit of a glossy look in places, like around the eyes. He does look like and around the moustache, he looks like he's sweating a bit. But yeah, I think, honestly, they've done a really great job. A beautiful head sculpt. And like I said, the paint apps on mine are really great, very neat and crisp. Yeah, I just think it looks absolutely superb. Moving down to the body and the armor, this has been done very well. You've got the sculpting on the costume, like the undersuit part, which has all got this sort of like a leather texture to it, which is very well done. And you've got all the creases and stuff on the arms, which look very realistic, all those folds and things. And then moving down to the gloves, this has got a slightly different texture again, and the detail on the gloves is really good too. Again, the belt sort of matches the gloves. And then you've got the red piping, which just offsets the black very nicely. And there's no paint bleeds here, very neat and crisp. And that red piping sort of carries on elsewhere. You can see it on the arms, you can see it down on the legs. Again, the way that the legs have been sculpted with all of the fabric sort of all bunched up and creased up looks very realistic, very good indeed. And then down to the boots as well, you can see there's a lot going on here. Again, that similar sort of leather texture to the rest of the sculpt. And you've got all the straps and things as well. Also on his sort of tunic skirt piece, he's got his holster. Again, this has got a similar sort of leather feel to it, which looks great. What I really love about this is you can even see they've sculpted in like the stitching of the holster, which is really impressive too. And then the body armor itself, this feels like it's a separate piece that has been glued onto the torso. And this is just in a glossed black plastic. Very similar really to the Stormtrooper that came out in this same Mandalorian wave. And you can see he's got a little bit of detail in terms of paint apps with the red, white and grey on the front. And then on the straps on the shoulders, there's like these little red badges as well. Unfortunately, on his left shoulder, you can see there's a bit of paint bleed on this one, but it's not too bad. I'm sure that could be fixed pretty easily. And then on the shoulders, again, more of this body armor. This is like part of the join in the shoulder. Again, very similar to what we've seen with the Stormtroopers. It doesn't really hinder mobility that much either, which is great. Then, of course, the real elephant in the room has to be the cape. I know there's a lot of debate between having soft goods and sculpted. Generally speaking, I prefer sculpted stuff because I feel that it just looks better. And honestly, the way that this has been sculpted, particularly around the back and when you see it from the front, it does look really good. It's sculpted so it falls correctly, if you know what I mean. Whereas you wouldn't necessarily get that, I think, if you used soft goods. However, the way that this cape is attached isn't particularly great because it does have a tendency to fall out. He's got the peg and that just plugs into his back, which is fine, but occasionally if you move him, it will fall off. If you attempt to move his arms and pose him, chances are it'll fall off. You can't really get him in too much of a battle stance because the cape's got nowhere to go, so it's going to push against what you're trying to do with him if you're trying to bend his legs. And I mean, I have managed to put him in a few different poses, so here's a bit of a combat pose, and you can even sort of tuck his arms behind him so he's like standing just waiting patiently or whatever. It kind of works. I mean, obviously it does push the cape out a little bit, but overall it's not too bad. My main criticism with the way it looks is just that you've got this bit of a gap between where the cape sits and where his shoulders are, so it doesn't look like he's really like hanging off of him. It's sort of floating in midair a little bit, but it's a minor gripe. I know some people have already customized proper fabric capes with wire and stuff, which, you know, amazing, that looks really great, but it's not really something that I would invest in personally. I'm happy with how he looks overall. So keeping on the theme of articulation, he has a lot of the standard articulation from the Black Series figures. His head is on a ball joint, so it can swivel all the way around. It can't swivel up too far. The shoulders are those sort of half ball joint shoulders, so they can swivel all around and come out to the side. Like I said, the shoulder armor does cause a little bit of a hindrance, but not too bad because it's very soft rubbery plastic, so it moves with the shoulder quite well. Then at the elbow, these are double jointed, so they can swivel all the way around and pivot up and down. The same for the wrists. They can swivel around and they can pivot back and forth. Needs a bit of work, but you can get there. Then he's got ab crunch articulation, which gives him quite a full range of movement going forward and swiveling all the way around to the sides and moving back. Then down to the hips. These can come out to the sides and swivel back and forth. And you've got articulation at the thighs. They're 360-degree movement there. The knees also slightly double jointed, so you can pivot them up and down and swivel them all around should you wish. And then the same down at the ankles. They can pivot back and forth, but they've got those rocker joints in them so that they can tilt back and forth either side as well, again allowing for a lot of posability. And then finally he comes with two accessories. He comes with his small hand blaster. This is just molded in like a gunmetal grey plastic, very nicely detailed with the scope, and you can see all the stuff going on at the barrel of the gun and all the little knobs and switches and stuff, and the clip at the bottom, which is great. That sits very nicely inside the holster, and it fits very snugly in his hand because that's a gun hand. He's got the trigger finger and everything. And then, of course, he comes with his dark saber, which was revealed in the finale of the first season of The Mandalorian. That fits perfectly in either hand, and there's enough articulation in the figure that you can just about get him to hold it with both hands as well. He can't hold it out very far because he doesn't have the butterfly joints in the torso, so it's not like he can really hold it out in front of him that much, but you can get some good poses out of it with him. The actual saber itself, I mean, it's good enough. The hilt looks great. That looks very accurate to how it looks in the show. I mean, there's not an awful lot going on there. It's just molded in a similar color plastic to the gun. The blade itself, obviously in the show, it lights up with that ethereal white glow. How are you going to do that with a figure? I mean, you could paint it white, but I guess all the lightsabers and stuff are translucent. So what they've done here is they've molded it in a translucent plastic. It's sort of basically transparent, but there's a bit sort of milky whiteness to it. And then they've painted the central part of the blade the same silver to match the hilt. I think it looks okay. I mean, you don't get any of that sort of energy effect that you see in the show, which is a bit of a shame. But honestly, I'm not really sure how you would do that unless you painted it, and, you know, would that look a bit naff? I'm not sure. Overall, it's a really great figure. Lots of articulation, detail-wise, really, really good stuff. Lovely sculpting all over, and yeah, the likeness I think is absolutely fantastic. One of the best, certainly that I've seen in the collection so far. I think he looks particularly good when you have him posed fighting with Mando. This is the pose that I've got him in on display at the moment, these guys duking it out. Obviously, we don't have the Beskar spear that Mando fights with yet, but fingers crossed if they revisit Mando for a Season 2 figure with a better cape that actually fits around the jetpack. Hopefully, they'll give him the spear as well, so he's got something to fight Moff Gideon with. But I hope you enjoyed this review. He's definitely worth picking up if you can get hold of him to add to your collection. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye-bye!